Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Marketing Water Cooler podcast. My name is Jeremy Francesi. Thanks for stopping by. Why don't we dive into things? Steph, what are we getting into on this one?
Let's talk about the true cost of project-based work.
True cost. So this episode is kind of for a couple different type of listeners and viewers, right? If you are on the marketing infrastructure side of an organization and you probably contract out work, whether it's a video here, a graphic here, whatever it may be, this will be a value for you. If you are a small team and you are maybe you don't really have any internal marketing people, maybe you're a CEO, a chief revenue officer, you're kind of driving marketing, but really it's not your core function. This is when you're going to want to pay attention to. And then look, if you're listening to this and you run an agency and you're doing a lot of project-based work and you're trying to build long-term relationships, this is a real conversation I had last week to frame things, because we really don't do project-based work. And I think a lot of people will hear that and it can come off a couple different ways. And I mean it, and it's not from a, we don't do it as in it's not good or productive, but it's really expensive for a client. And let me explain that. Not revenue expensive, not price tag expensive. We had a client come back to us. They're a private equity firm. We'll do a couple $100 million this year. And they've done everything they've done for the last 50 years through word of mouth, very minimal marketing. And so we work a lot with financial services, private equity, B2B services, right? And this is a really good fit. So when we started these conversations, we started doing one little thing at a time. And I finally got to a point like, can you help with this? I was like, I can absolutely help with that. But the truth is it's you can go anywhere for that. That's not really where we could become valuable. And if we keep doing project at a time, whether it's a single thing here, a single thing there, right? The challenge is you now have to be responsible for completing the project, not because the outsourced vendor is not responsible, but because there isn't a shared vision. When you're a CEO, a managing partner of a firm, you are responsible for building the business, driving things forward on a different level. It is so expensive with your time to constantly be pulled back into the daily minutia of a single project. Because a couple things. One, the outsourced vendor doesn't know the big picture, because all they're focused on, even if they've done, like we always do our due diligence on what's the goal, what are we doing, what's the some general development to understand the big picture and the journey we're on. But for the most part, when you're doing a project at a time, whether it could be a logo, it could be, brand standards just to get a lookbook together. It could be a blog, technical content's a little bit different. But what it comes down to is, if you're that owner, that CEO, you are now required, you are the bottleneck, because there isn't a defined look. There isn't a defined style. There is a lot of potential room to wiggle when it comes to what the final outcome looks like. And if there hasn't been a development of the relationship where you're coming in and now you have to spend time in that project. You have to manage its developments, provide feedback on a consistent basis. You have to be the functional owner of that project. It's not to say the agency can't get it as far as possible, right? Quite possible, depending on what you're looking for, they can get it the whole way there. And it's actually a net value. But what I'm getting at is, and explaining to this client, if we're going to do a number of consistent projects together, then let's step back and stop tacking on little things at a time and start talking about a plan, right? Where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? What's the business outcome we're trying to generate through this money spent and time invested? Where are you measuring success, and how are you looking at it from a qualitative and quantitative output? Because this single project, whether it's a letterhead or a logo, it is entirely subjective. Where are we going where marketing today and marketing a year from now moves the business forward? That's the conversation that needs to be had. Because what happens when you have that conversation is you now have a functional owner running that vision with you. They understand the big picture. They understand the ebbs and flows of the project and the project management workflow. They understand what needs to get done if they're the right partner, and they understand what you're looking for. We have clients right now where we've made several $1,000 videos, technical written content, updates to websites, and they are almost not even in the loop other than just saying, hey, I saw it, it looked good. Because now we are so informed on what they want, what the standard for great is, what we're doing here, what we're here to accomplish, that now they don't have to manage our time, effort, energy, and resources on a project by project basis, because we are in sync. right? Everybody looks at outsourcing and says, we'll follow your lead. No, I want to be lockstep with you. I want to be side by side with you, because if I'm side by side with you, then you're not managing our execution, because I know what needs to get done. We collectively understand what we're trying to accomplish and how it fits into the big picture. So when you start doing projects at a time, little things here and there, what happens is it's so time consuming on every project, that one video you're considering, that one project you're considering, that you don't get anywhere. Because you keep shopping for new vendors to get a better deal, which means you then have to learn how to work together. Then you have to figure out what the great standard looks like. And all of that time being spent trying to make it work, you could have spent it finding a partner that you can genuinely share the big picture with. And now they understand what the game is. They understand what we're trying to accomplish and how the individual projects fit into that equation. So when you don't have a long-term commitment, it can work. I'm not saying projects don't work. What I'm saying is, as the functional owner, if you're a CEO, managing principal, C-suite, otherwise, it's expensive, because now your time is going to be sucked into that project to kick it off, discuss ongoing developments, revise it, get it to a point where it's at your standards, and then get it to a point where you can ship it. Instead of just getting an organization that can understand those pieces and what the standard is, maybe help develop the standard with you. And now all you have to do is kick it off and be there on the back end and make sure it's up to standards, right? And so that's a conversation we had recently. And so that makes perfect sense. If we keep doing projects, this is going to take a ton of my time. And I don't have time. So we might as well step back, put a plan in place, and get in motion. Does that make sense? Like outlining it that way? I feel like it's easy to take it in a way that, like, as an agency, you're like, you just want the long-term agreements. It's like, of course we do. But it's also, in my opinion, what I've experienced in my career, it's just a better way of conducting business. You're not hiring us to get the tactics done. You're hiring us to be an advisor and to get the tactics done. So, like, let's align at the strategy level and let's go to work. Right. What do you think? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It's sort of working with the same team will always mean that your sort of starting point gets higher every time, so that you're not starting from zero. Project-based work is going to be, you start from zero every time even if you're not bringing in new people to do the project for you, because they've sort of moved on from that specific project and have gone on to other work. And so it's like, okay, great. We have to go back. We have to revisit. We have to see what did we do last time? Do we want to do this again? Kind of thing, instead of having the momentum and like the upward trajectory to just keep things moving in a way that is both good for the client and for the agency.
100%. And look, there are instances where project-based works the best, right? Like, you don't need 14 Super Bowl commercials a year, right? There are,
Right.
Blog content, right? Technical content can be a little bit more sporadic if you want to, one-off things here and there, I guess. But I think the best thing you can do is, develop a strategy that allows you to have a plan, an alignment of vision, and a clear course of action to execute. The less you have to spend time holding each other accountable for the alignment to the vision, the better you are. But when and the reason I say this, we had a client that took 2 weeks off. Everything kept going. Not a single thing held up because of his absence, from, pretty complex project development to technical stuff related to like what we do for their shareholders and the private equity element. Like, we didn't skip a beat because we understood what we were here to accomplish and how it impacted each audience we're working to communicate to, how it impacted branding and marketing as a whole, how it impacted positioning, what the goal is for the end of the year and 2022. We understand what's happening, right? And that's why we spend a lot of time talking about the difference is how a business functions and what they offer are very different things. I've said that on this show before. Project-based work is what the company offers and the message and story you're telling. Partnership is understanding deeply how the business operates and functions, as well as, right, what they offer. The distinction matters. And look, I don't expect everybody to like lock onto this and be like, I love it, right? If you got 500 employees and you have a fully functioning marketing department, then yeah, you can hire somebody to make a video for you and call it a day, because you don't need production in-house. But it's going to be a lot more efficient when you start to grease the wheels from a standpoint of They know exactly what we're looking for out of this brand, this look, this vision, and how we want our voice to feel in these digital environments. Build the relationship, align the vision, develop processes where you work well together, and go to work, right? Because every time you start over with a new project, 6 months later, 2 months later, you're just starting over. And it's just, as the operator on you, on the client side, it's expensive on your time. And you can be doing more to get a better return. That's the punchline. So we'll probably talk about this a little more at another point, but that's all I got for now. Any questions on your end, Steph? Anything that on this, the y'all listening or watching might be thinking about that we can hammer out?
I'm sort of wondering where the sort of, maybe you're like in contracted for a long-term project. Where does that sort of distinction lie between long-term project and just being the agency for something?
I'll give you a really specific example, right? This exact client we were talking about, this is a situation where like we needed to help them with some basic design work, like email signature design and like things we don't do a la carte. Like that's not like the way I kind of described it to them was like, it's like going to a 3-star Michelin restaurant and asking for some toast. And I'm not saying that from an arrogant standpoint. What I'm saying is it's, of course we can say yes to that, but that's not why people come here.
Right.
That's the punchline. And so, we can do the email signature design so that it's branded and appropriate. Yes, you come back, can you help us with like letterhead and brand standards? Of course we can do that and that, but like, why don't we step back and figure out why we're doing these things? Mm-hmm. You went from email signature design to a brand, you need some semblance of standardization with the brand from what you're doing, how you're doing it. Letterhead. Okay. That's kind of one off. Why do we need now that to have the, why do we need that? Right. And I kind of said, based on the work you've seen, would it be fair to assume that after we do this, there's probably more to come? I said, yes. Then why not step back? Instead of me having to charge you for one little itty bitty thing at a time, which is expensive on my time and yours, right? Let's step back and figure out, where are we going? Okay, we're going from nothing to something from marketing. Great. So what does that mean? We need a website. We need brand guidelines, standards, competitive analysis to understand what our industry peers are doing so we can make sure we're positioned well. And you go down the list and you build a plan of attack together that incorporates all those small little projects. But now, because there's a plan in place, there's alignment of vision and clarity on what's being accomplished and how it impacts the actual business, the actual company that we are serving, you as the customer. We understand the value of what we're doing. We can have multiple projects going at once. The brand guidelines are being developed as we're doing competitive analysis to figure out how to position things and develop a positioning statement to get clear on who, what, where, when, why, and how anything matters as it relates to you, right? Instead of doing a brand, this thing for 2 weeks to go back and forth on it, then start the next thing, you build a process that allows you to be effective. Because now, depending on how this plays out, the first 3 months, we're going to do everything they would ultimately be coming back to us on a random basis for. We'll be done in 90 days instead of a year and a half, because they're just chipping away at things when they feel they have time, right? Because I always explain to our clients, you're not going to have more time because you're doing more things.
Right. That's pretty much the opposite of what usually happens.
Right. Like now you're going from nothing to something, from like, okay, you did $200 million last year and you're ready to like go to $500 million a year, market, brand, position. Great. Now you're not going to all of a sudden have your feet up drinking pina coladas. You're going to have marketing to discuss and review. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be worth your time if you're always thinking about the smallest little piece of the puzzle. Get us to focus on the small piece. Help us understand the big piece.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you have somebody, then that part of your business is operating at the same speed as the rest of your business, because now you're not pulled into this, which needs your attention, which then slows down everything else. Now we're lockstep. Now we are moving at the same speed as you are. That's where you get the return on your investment. And that is my punchline in saying the true cost of project-based work is not dollar value, it's speed.
Mm-hmm. Plus, there's the solid possibility that like an agency will know all the little things in between. They're like, oh, we need letterhead. Oh, we need, something else that's little, something else that's little here. And like, the agency could cover that from the beginning without you having to think about it.
And to be honest, they will, and that's what we're here for, right?
Right.
Again,
Right.
like I always reference things to cooking, but it's like when you order the dish, you're not asking them to saute in olive oil and season with salt and pepper. You're asking for the dish.
Right.
Let us worry about how the ingredients come together. We understand what you're ordering.
Mm-hmm.
That's the punchline for me. Like, you just got to get to the point where you're like, I understand I'm with a partner that understands what's happening. They'll understand the small things, right?
Right.
It's not because they're not important, but it's like, what is actually worth your time and attention?
Mm-hmm.
If you're the CEO of a company and you're managing things, is it really worth your time to be spending time discussing at length this project? No.
Not if it's email signatures and letterhead,
Right. It's just like, it's not worth your time. Hire us because we're freaking amazing at what we do. Let's align on what we need to accomplish and let us go to work. When we need feedback, we'll send you something for feedback. Right. But we don't need to, and again, this is a one-off example, but I think a lot of companies, when they're in the process, they try to like, you don't have to go all in on it. I'm not saying don't have a trial period if you want to do a little bit of work together, get a feel for it. But what I am saying is when you get to the point of confidence in collaboration and in partnership, discuss the capacity to lock arms and go to work together. It will save you so much time. And as a result, save you money. And beyond that, you'll get where you're trying to go faster, and you'll learn what needs to be fixed faster because momentum, right? We've talked about this a little bit, and we'll close things up. Like, if you ride a bike too slow, you will tip over, not because you can't ride a bike, because you need momentum.
Right.
And it's a weird idiom or, analogy, but it's the same thing. You got to get in motion to find a way to make it work, right? It's not the rock that tipped you over. You're just going too slow.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's all I got for this one, Steph, unless you want to throw something out there.
I don't think so. I think we covered everything. Me personally, like, if you're going to go back to the same person for one thing after another, you might as well just start working together. So you just make everything easier,
100%. And look, obviously this conversation's primarily focused on agencies and people that have teams, right? Like, I'm not saying don't do this for the one-off contractor. It's a little bit of a different conversation, but the punchline is the hardest thing in business, I think, is finding people that see what you see and can actually help you build something that gets you there faster and more effectively. If you find somebody, just go to work together. And if it's not, then that's okay. But understand the balance there. And so that's what we got for today. So everybody, thanks so much for stopping by. As always, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, new episodes. We'll be back for more. Hey, thanks so much for sticking around to the end. If you liked the video, smash the like button and hit subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the new episodes. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. We will fold them into future episodes and make sure that you get the help and the answers you're really looking for all things marketing and communications.